TLG. Any other questions? Oh, we have one.
Thanks. Sounds very interesting. And question: are you familiar with AWS CDK? And if so, how do you compare your solution to CDK?
Well, thanks for the question. Actually, Peter will talk a little bit about this, so I won't steal everything from him. The things that we found ourselves being compared to sometimes is like Vercel for your Rust backend. That's the kind of thing that people kind of have in mind. The idea that we have is, there is a framework, right? The framework, which is infrastructure from code, which lets you take your code and kind of go through it, add annotations where you need infrastructure. So if you need a database here, you add, a trait, and the infrastructure will be provisioned for you at kind of compile time. So that's the aspect of the platform, right? So the cloud platform and the framework. That's why I think the comparison to Vercel and Next.js kind of makes sense to an extent, though of course it's slightly different. I hope that answers like what we're closer to rather than AWS CDK. But there is some exciting stuff that we're working on, which we'll kind of get back to later.
Question over here.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about the monetization side of it, like how you think of like sustaining this.
Yeah, we're also very curious about this. So I think I mentioned this Shuttle batch. So this was something that was inspired. It's a slight detour, but we'll get to that. It's something that was inspired by our experience at YC. YC experience is kind of in batches. So you go, you like spend 3 months building something alongside other smart people. You have a lot of fun. You work really hard, and then at the end of it, there's a demo day. You present, and then you hopefully get some money. So. And during that experience, like for me, one of the best aspects of it was that you really build relationships with people that last beyond that. So with a lot of companies that we met there, a lot of founders we met there, we're still in good friends with, and we kind of ask for advice. Sometimes we kind of vent if needed. You need to let it out sometimes as well. So, and I thought, how can we recreate that experience for our contributors? Because we have a lot of people contributing to Shuttle code base. A lot of them want to learn Rust. A lot of them are in this because they have been helped in the past and they want to help others. There's like all sorts of people. How do we connect them? And so we did this thing with Shuttle called Shuttle Batch. The first one ran a year ago, and one of the members of the batch, Oddbjorn, here today is one of our team members. So and now we just finished today the second batch, and one of the participants there did a lot of funny memes about Shuttle as their final presentation. And so one of them was about our pricing, which is a meme. But not for long. We are working on it. So the idea, really, so what I mentioned previously about us being a developer experience platform, we want to focus on taking, if people are to pay us, it's for the amazing experience that they're having, right? I really like using your platform. It makes my development experience much better, so I'm willing to pay. And so the fee is going to be for developer experience. Now, of course, we also, to make it easier for people to deploy, we don't force people from the beginning to connect their AWS accounts and so on and go through all of that. So initially, you can just deploy with Shuttle, and it's much faster. And so at some point, there is the question of infrastructure, but the idea is that then for us not to really become an infrastructure platform. So maybe we will be kind of providing it at a cost with potentially small margin there. But it's close to AWS, which is what we use under the hood. And then in the future, when people are going to be connecting their own AWS accounts, then obviously, this is not with us. Then the concept of developer experience fee makes even more sense. So then it kind of becomes more closer to things like Terraform, for example, right? In that sense. But then we are actually, we were discussing this. What makes sense? Does it make sense to be like a fixed fee, right? Like a kind of $20 a month or whatever, or would it make sense to be a percentage, right? And somehow like relate that to infrastructure builds. So there are many things that we're considering depending on what the users want. Right now, I would say for like our next step is releasing the Pro tier, which is most likely going to be like a fixed fee that gives you a generous kind of allowance to use, and for most people, that's going to be enough for further usage.
So, I'm guessing from what you said earlier, well, I mean, only like minutes ago, that you are all about AWS, but do you have plans to support other vendors and things like OpenStack for, like, if you want to deploy your own infrastructure, you want to use Shuttle?
Yeah, definitely. I think it makes sense, like in the long run, to be as inclusive as possible. Rust is growing, but it's still not like as widespread, as some other languages out there. And so just like limiting ourselves to just AWS would be, I think, a mistake. But of course, for now, in like the problem set that we have in front of us and like things that we can make better, it makes sense to stick to this and just build an amazing experience there, and then maybe kind of venture out to more. But yeah, it's on the table for sure. Yeah.
Just after that, somebody deployed Shuttle in a Raspberry Pi. It only took like 57 minutes to compile, so yeah, I mean.
Next question over here, please, and then we've got one up top.
Well, I have a slightly more Rust, Rust sort of technical question, which is like, obviously, you're implementing, I guess, quite a complicated sort of system here. Unlike some languages, like Erlang, Rust doesn't really have any runtime support for writing like distributed systems, or like Java has quite a mature ecosystem around that stuff. Like, how have you found this? Have you been like trying to implement everything from scratch, or have you found libraries out there that do this?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sorry. So obviously, like a lot of, I guess you're writing like quite a complicated distributed system, and a lot of like languages out there, like things like Erlang, have runtime software support for this, and other languages like Java have quite mature ecosystems that allow you to do this. Like, how have you found writing distributed systems in Rust? Like, do you have to implement everything from scratch, or are you able to like find libraries out there?
No, I think we actually, and then that's another question that leads back to community. We have relied a lot on this, and I think in the past, well, Peter will maybe mention more about this, what exactly we've relied on, but for example, Tokyo has been like a bedrock of of a lot of the stuff that we do, or Tokayo. I'm not sure how to pronounce this exactly correctly. Different people do it differently. So no, definitely we've relied on many things. I think in terms of kind of building distributed systems and potentially Shuttle being of support to or Shuttle being used with microservices in the future as well. This is still kind of down the line, and I'm pretty sure that we will be relying on a lot of the stuff that's out there. We've tried ourselves to also kind of give back to the community, so not just kind of consume, but also give back. There's actually a couple crates that Peter is sitting on. He just needs to find time to ship, and that's definitely coming at some point. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Okay, we've got Tim, and then we're going to have one last question here.
Hello. Trying to get my head around what you were saying about infrastructure from code versus infrastructure as code. So I've used Pulumi, I've used Terraform, and I kind of don't get what that would look like or what that means.
Yeah.
Go a bit into that.
Yeah. So we wait. I think is it pizza maybe or not? Not yet.
We've got a confession about pizza, but I'll let you finish.
It's not coming, is it?
No, if Ernest promised, then it must come at some point. Maybe for the next event, but it will come eventually. I think I could answer it with words, but it will be much better with showing. And one of my colleagues, Ivan, is speaking later, and he's going to actually show how it works in practice. And I think it's more exciting to see in action than to talk about it.
This might be answered by one of the later talks, but why is Shuttle such a good match for Rust? Or I guess an alternative question is, why isn't it a good match for other languages?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I could go through all the classic bullet points that people give when they're asked why Rust is good. But why is Shuttle good match for Rust specifically? Because Shuttle was built for Rust, right? We built Shuttle with the principles that Rust is built upon, but we've also tried to utilize all of the capabilities like static analysis, but many more things that Shuttle is powerful at in how we built the platform. And I think actually when you see it in action later, even my colleague Ivan is going to be showing this, and Peter also will mention some stuff very shortly. You will see what that means exactly in practice, like how we've used Rust to make the experience amazing. The question is, of course, like how does that go outside of Rust eventually, right? Does it even make sense? Or will Rust be big enough, for us to not even think about other languages? We're more thinking about the second, so we're very bullish on Rust, but there are also ways of thinking of how to do this with other languages, and we're definitely considering that internally, though it's more like, a Shuttle 5 years from now discussion rather than Shuttle next year discussion. Though things may change, like many other times in the past, we have thought something was going to be down the line, and it actually came to us much sooner.
Great, thank you very much. Please give Nodar a big hand.